Hey, look, it's me, Michael V. Smith, on my show Without a Wig. Have I told you the one about? We have a new orientation, things, we are mixing shit up, man. And I thought, well, if we're going to do gender fuckery, we need to also, like, we can't just live on one side of the curtain. We need to live on the other side of the curtain. So I'm just wearing what I wore today. This is what I look like at home. Of course, I also look like the other versions of me at home too sometimes, too. But whatever. Okay. So have I told you the one about? You came back for another time. This is a really good one. You're going to be really happy with this one. Are you ready to see who our special guest is? Let's do the magic of counting to three. 1, 2, 3. Poof! Look,
Hello.
it's some other bitch in drag.
Oh,
I didn't have to get dressed up. We got someone who's professional. This is
well,
Marcus. Oh,
thank you. Thank you.
Ethica.
Ethica. Yes, they're interchangeable. Like you, I've got a Muggle name and a fairy name, and so I go by Ethica, but also by Marcus.
Hi, Ethica. Welcome to my show.
Thank you, Cookie. It's such a pleasure to be here. I was just giggling because I had given you that suggestion. We should change it to Have I Told You the One a boot? Canadianize it.
We should just to really screw people over. What's wrong with it? Maybe he's not really Canadian because he says about.
You know that it's spelled wrong.
Yeah, it's missing an O.
Yeah. Now the cat's out of the bag. Otherwise, we could have just changed it and seen how many episodes it would take for people to figure it out.
Well, I'm sitting in front of it now, but
All right.
you look really great. You're under the rainbow.
Oh, the rainbow.
Yeah.
I'm always into the rainbow.
You
It's a
are.
bit of a theme in my life.
So before we get into your story, I thought I would check in with you because you're on the
Yeah.
front lines. You are like Dr. Ethica.
Yeah.
You,
Yes.
you want to tell
Yes.
me
There's
how?
a few radical fairies who were physicians, and so, I'll talk a little bit about that journey. But yeah, so we're, so I work in a primary care clinic for the health authority, and so we provide care for folks who are some of the most complex in terms of like complex illness and mental illness and addiction. So we're doing a lot of on the ground work there and supporting our folks who are at a lot more risk than the average person is. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to support them. And in that context, we're doing what we're calling pandemic prescribing, which means providing folks with substitutes for the illicit drugs that they're using on the street. So because they're hard to access or they're very expensive or they're tainted and poisoned. And so we're providing safe alternates for that for now, at least during the pandemic, so that people can self-isolate.
Wow.
So been interesting and challenging, and so we're learning an awful lot with that. So
And just for
uh,
the folks at home, you're in Vancouver,
yeah.
British
So
Columbia.
yeah, and then I work in a nursing home, so we've been COVID free for since this all started. We got it locked down so that we're trying to keep our folks safe. I work with an amazing team. Both of the teams that I work with are pretty extraordinary. So,
And
and then I do.
how's
Mhm.
morale?
How's morale? I think we're doing good because we're being effective, and at least at the sites that I'm working at, some of the stories at some of the places where they've had really terrible outbreaks have been heart wrenching. So, and
Uh-huh.
we're hearing some really tough stories. Folks getting sick, and their family members who are also older and frail, not able to come and visit them because they're at such risk themselves, right?
Right.
So, there's some pretty tough stories that we're hearing. So there's going to be a long-term, not only like health impact, but a mental health impact for sure. So we're
Yeah.
looking at that.
Well, I am so flattered that you came on my show,
Oh my gosh, we're huge fans.
not just because I know you're one of my biggest fans. You are so supportive. You come home from a long day of being a doctor in the world, and then you send me cute little messages telling me how great I am.
Well, it's
Man,
true.
and now you've gone and surprised me and gotten all dressed up in drag just to do this show. I can't,
I,
that, it's so
I
above and
thought about
beyond.
messaging you. I thought about messaging and saying you better get yourself all dolled up, but it worked out as it was. Plus, I was rushing.
I'm talking about it. Now I made myself cry. Anyways, I love you
I
so
love you.
much, and I'm really,
Yeah.
really grateful.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled that you're here because you're going to tell a killer story. You're going to tell one of my favorite kinds of stories. What are my favorite stories?
Horror stories, ghost stories, and love stories.
Love stories are at the top.
Are they?
Yes! If you have a love story with a ghost in it, it may be that. But, you know, the love trumps the ghost. Okay, send me your story, would you? Because I've got the magic portal and it's open. It's open especially wide for you.
There you go.
Did I mention I'm monogamous? I don't think that counts as cheating because we didn't touch.
No, I'm monogamous too.
Your story is true love story. Ethica loves Fuego.
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay, so you told me you really loved my love story about how I met my husband, and this is how you met
Yeah.
your husband.
Indeed. So, I think one of, my my love for you is in part because I experience, and we've talked about this. There are a number of interesting parallels through our lives, and I think that's brought us close. And it's at times we've had a little bit of conflict around that, and I'm so thrilled that our friendship endures through all of that. And so when you shared that story, I thought, that's really powerful because, I got married around the same time that you did. We're going to be 5 years in a couple of months. And
When did you get married?
We got married July 18th, 2015.
I got married August 1st. Yeah, so
Yeah.
not even a month apart.
Exactly.
Oh.
So I think for us, we've been really drawn to connect with other queer men who are married because there isn't a lot of representation out there. And so when you invited me to come, I thought, that's important to me because I look for that. So we have a couple of queer men or couples who are married, because I think it is a different experience, and so I'm always listening to those. Like there are some commonalities I think with marriage in general and with relationship, but I think there's also something unique, and so I'm always trying to figure out how do we move through that, because I don't think that it is the same as other marriages.
Mm-hmm.
So
you certainly have to navigate a lot of different things.
Representation. Sorry?
You certainly have to navigate different things that straight people don't have to navigate.
Absolutely. So I heard your story and I thought, there's some it's such a sweet story, and I thought, well, what a nice, wouldn't it be nice to share sort of a parallel story to that, because we have parallel lives, you and I, and put some more of these stories of marriage out there for folks to connect with if that's something they're seeking.
So tell me, how did you meet your husband?
Well, so I'll set the stage. In 2011, I was living in Vancouver. I was a social worker working at the hospital, and I, on a whim, inspired by some of the folks that I was working with at the hospital, I sort of secretly applied to go to medical school. I didn't tell anybody in my family. My boyfriend at the time, he knew. My two references knew. I applied. I got in. And so, which was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting it, but I really think that I was called to do it. I think the universe said, hey, here's this opportunity. Do you want to take it? So,
because you didn't have a science background.
No, I did an art history degree at UVic, which I loved. And then I went and did a master's in social work. And I was doing that work and really enjoying it. But I saw the opportunities and I thought, the role of physician is really integral. And I saw folks who were doing it really effectively and wonderfully, and I saw folks who were doing it ineffectively and not wonderfully. And I thought, well, if I can find myself at least somewhere in the middle there, then I'll be contributing in a meaningful way. And so that's been and I thought, you know what, I'll just give it a try and see what happens. And the opportunity came, and so off I went. I packed up my life, moved away from the fellow I was dating at the time, to St. Catharines, Ontario. Isolated there. I had closest family was an hour away. Toronto was like 90 minutes to 2 hours away. No, LGBTQ plus friends or community really to speak of there. And I was sort of resigned myself that I was just going to study and learn for a few years and then return home. But it was pretty isolated and pretty lonely. And when you spoke in your stories, when you've talked about being I think you said like the lonely homosexual. Like I really connected with that idea. Like I have felt lonely much of my life, and I thought, I always dreamed of having a relationship. I never really thought about getting married, but a primary relationship long term that would be meaningful and good for me. And it wasn't anything that I had success finding. And so I'd kind of given up. I thought, well, I'm never going to meet anybody. And, I think that really reinforced the internalized homophobia that I lived with. I made some really poor choices in people that I dated, and because I guess I never thought that anybody would love that queer kid that I was. The one that got bullied, the one that was called effeminate was the term that they used.
I don't know that word. What's that word?
Effeminate?
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
I can't see your face, but I'm assuming you're joking. Yeah, it was like code, right, for like young queer doesn't know.
Yeah.
It was interesting that they called me effeminate, but when I came out at like 16, my whole family was like, "What?" Like, I'm like, "Really? Come on now." I've been keeping that secret. So, I think for me, my life, I connected with the Radical Faeries as you did. For me, that was in 2004 through a friend of ours whom we love, More Gain, Less Loss. And, I really found like strength and my sense of self through there, like really as a queer person. Like that's when I started really making those connections. So here I am in medical school. It's brutal. It's tough. I don't have a science degree, so I'm like behind the first day I start. It's a real struggle, and I was really isolated, and I was in it a couple of years, keeping in touch with friends, and our dear friend of ours, Tag and Griff from Washington State, he called me up and he said, "You know what? We're going to go to the winter gathering, and you should come, and you should just like figure out how to do it. Get on a plane. You don't need to bring anything except, bring a frock and a wig if you want, but really just like bring yourself, and I'll pick you up from the airport. I'll bring bedding. I'll bring like whatever we need, snacks. Just tell me what you need, and I'll pick you up and I'll get you there and get you back to the airport." So,
and a winter gathering is we have two retreats that the Radical Faeries that we hang out go to, and one's in the winter. So the winter gathering means a Radical Faerie gathering.
Yeah. So there's like 160 Radical Faeries gathering in Central Oregon at this lovely, like rustic hot springs resort. So you're like soaking in the hot springs, and there's a talent show, and there's Heart Circle every day, and you get to like reconnect, and it's like 4 days, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, what a great break for you.
It was exactly what I needed, and so I had to so I told my program, I said I needed. You'll love this. I needed accommodation for religious observance.
Great.
And to have the time off. And of course, they weren't going to question that. And so, but it meant that I had to work like 2 doubles in a row in the ER. And then I finished at like 3 a.m, drove back to my house, grabbed my suitcase, grabbed coffee, drove to Buffalo, flew from Buffalo to Chicago to Portland. My friend picks me up. We drive down to Brighton Bush. I eat dinner and I fall asleep, and I sleep like 15 hours.
Wow.
I'm exhausted. That morning, he comes in and he's like, "Breakfast is on. Do you want to come have some breakfast?" So I throw on my little like morning robe that I wear there, the one to soak, the Lady Pepperell, that little outfit, and we go into the breakfast room.
It's a beautiful outfit.
That beautiful like floral towel, like terry cloth towel that turned into a dress. It's great.
It says something about me with 160 men there. I know your robe is terry cloth.
Yeah, it's perfect. Some brilliant person took these vintage towels and turned them into a beautiful dress, which is perfect to put on after you soaked, right? Because especially when it's like snowing outside, you just pull that
practical.
on and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in the breakfast room, and as you do, it's like the first morning, and you're reconnecting with folks, and people are walking by, and I see this fellow walk past, and he is really cute, and he's got some junk in his trunk. He's got a really nice butt. Now, before I go on, I should tell you that my husband would tell you that the remainder of the story of how we met are my retellings of his recollections, because I have a really poor memory, and this is like an ongoing joke in our relationship, because I really do. And
you only remember how you met because he's told you.
In part because I was in medical school, and all of the all non-essential, not examinable material, just squeezed out my ears.
Sure.
So, so he's not completely wrong when he says my memory is terrible. He'll often say things. I don't know if your husband does this, but he'll be like, "Remember we had this conversation about such and such?" And I'll be like, "Sounds like something I'd say, but I don't remember that."
Yeah, my husband loves to remember things that are humiliating, and I'm like, "Oh no, I don't remember that."
Right. I knew we had other things in common. So I saw him, and I was like, "Hey there, why don't you sit your cute ass down here and eat your breakfast?" And he tells me that he'd never been catcalled before, and so he's like, "Well, let's see what happens." And so he sat down, and there was chatting, and it was really natural and sweet, and Tag was there, and other people, and it was just we just really got along nicely. We shifted over to the library, which is within the same building, and we chatted for hours. I remember a friend of ours had brought some watercolors, and so we were doing watercolor paintings, and I actually still have an image of a painting that I did of him, and I don't do watercolors, but it turned out quite nicely. There was a little bit of kissing and just a really nice connection there. I thought that it was going to be another, gathering boyfriend. I figured that when, it ended after, the gathering ended, that we were going to go our own ways, and, maybe we'd stay in touch, that sort of thing. I mean, it felt really sweet and really connected and really, really good. But I, met folks at prior
romance, and, it doesn't stick. It's like Grease, right? You think it's summer lovin'. You had a blast. Yeah. Happened so fast. Away you go.
I met a boy who was crazy for me.
Yeah.
And was sweet as can be.
Yeah. Okay, so you think it's not going to be much.
Well, and as I said, I was pretty much resigned that a relationship for me wasn't in the cards. And so I get home, and we start texting, and he's like, I want to keep in touch with you, and so we would talk on Skype and stay connected. And he's like, "I'm going to come and visit you," and I'm like, okay, that sounds great. And then if I recall, his sister-in-law, she works for one of the airlines, and she had some passes, and so he used the passes and flew out to Buffalo Airport. I drove down and picked him up and brought him up for a few days, and so we spent a few days together, and it was lovely. Brought him back to the airport. A few days later, he was like, "Oh, we need to fix up your place, do some things." We'd gone to a framing shop, and somehow he'd managed to get some of my art framed for me. So I get this phone call, and he'd like paid to have some of my art framed for me. I still don't know how he did that, but yeah, it was very sweet.
And was only at your house for a couple days.
Say again?
He was only at your house for a couple days.
For a couple of days, yes. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, he's a little lesbian, isn't he?
Yeah. So, fast forward about 6 weeks later, we said, well, let's go on a date. Let's meet someplace in the middle. So we had this lovely date in Chicago for a long weekend, and it was just lovely and magical. We went, then we met up probably 8 weeks after that. So I'm in medical school still, right? Like, I'm like in the thick of it. But I'd arranged to come to Vancouver for an elective for 4 weeks. So in August, he drove up to see me in Vancouver, and then the following.
Where does he live?
He was living in Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
so he was living in Portland, and I was in St. Catharines, Ontario.
And he's an American.
He's an American.
Oh, okay.
So in August, he drives up for a visit. A week later, he comes up and joins me at my mother's wedding. Oh. My mother's getting married, and I thought that was pretty brave. He got quizzed by my mom and her girlfriends to, like, what are your intentions? It was also the day we said, I love you for the first time. What I didn't know was that my mom's other girlfriend, Jude, took him aside and said, what, if it doesn't work out with Marcus, I got a gay son too. So we hold that over Jude's head.
Well.
We were like, back off, Jude. Locked in. Oh, I'm not wearing my wedding ring. Oh. Oops. I don't wear my wedding ring because I have to wash my hands 1,000 times a day when I'm working. So, so I've been taking it off. So that was in the summer. We managed to be pretty creative in spending time together over the rest of the fall and over Christmas. About a year after we met, in the spring of, or in February of 2015, we got engaged while we were down in Cancun. Well, let's say we went over to Isla Mujeres, which is this little island in the bay, and he proposed to me. And I was so stunned. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. We got back to our room. My parents were there as well, so I ran over to my parents' room. So I had not answered him, and I go over, and I'm like, Mom, what should I do? And my mom was not empathetic at all. She's like, are you an idiot? She's like, he's amazing. Say yes. Go back there, fix this, say yes now. You idiot. I mean,
I love that.
Yes.
You didn't say anything. He must have been mortified. He must have been so panicked.
I was just, like I said, I think it goes back to the stories that I was telling myself, that I wasn't deserving of the love.
Right.
So I went back and we fixed the mistake, and I said the yes, and so we got engaged. And that summer, then we realized we needed to do it sooner than later because that immigration was going to take a long time and all of that, and we really just wanted to be together. So we got married in the summer of 2015, and got, so I had just started residency then at the hospital. So I was working crazy hours. So he would be in Portland for 9 days, working his butt off, and then he would drive up every 9 days and spend 5 days with me.
Wow.
Sometimes I would be on call. He would basically be there, and he would, feed me and put me to bed, and then wake me up and feed me and send me out the door for 26 hours, and then repeat. So that year was a bit tough, but we got all this stuff organized, and ultimately he was able to move up on Canada Day of 2016, which I thought was a nice. It was either that or he was going to move up on July the 4th, but we figured that would sound like a bit of an FU to the United States to leave on Independence Day. So we chose Canada Day as a day of arrival.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. So now we live here. We have a little house with a garden, and we have our puppy dog, Vince, who's a golden retriever who was rescued. There's a animal rescue group called Golden Bond out of Portland that Brad's been a part of for many years, and so last year in February we got Vince. He's about 6 years old, and he's the love of our life. He's our dog child.
Oh.
And Brad works as a beekeeper. Works with a research group, working with the bees and helping out with that.
The beekeeper and the doctor. That could have been the other title for this story. Yeah.
It's so interesting because he gets together with his beekeeper folks. I actually went with him to the beekeepers conference a year and a half ago, and they were speaking English words, but I didn't understand a word they were saying.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like completely. And we go out, and people are like, "Oh, you're a doctor." And, "Oh, you're a beekeeper." "Oh, I hear the bees are being annihilated." Like, people are not interested in what I do. People are fascinated with bees.
We should have him on the show. He could tell some beekeeping stories.
He could, for example, that bees are not being annihilated.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so he does that, and we have our space, and we're working on making our little backyard nicer, because it seems like we're all going to be homebound, or much more homebound than we have been before. So we're putting in our vegetable garden and growing tomatoes and creating a space where we can sit outside and have meals, so we don't always have to be inside the house, right?
Well, Ethica, that's a gorgeous story. I love that story.
Thank you.
That is Ethica Loves Fuego. So genius. Okay, can you hang on for half a tick? Do you want? I'd like to have my guest stay there and smile. Do I have a photograph? Oh, yes, I got a photograph. Look at this, sweetheart. Here is a little selfie. Oh, no, that was right. Here's a selfie from our dear... Oh, you can't see her face in it. Oh, you can't see her face. Oh, it's just me. But look, there's the handsome Sean, who is Emily, was our guest. Was it yesterday? I lost track of the days. 2 days ago. Or who knows when. Anyways, and Sean took a selfie with him, but it's so hard with her. I mean, oh, there. See, look. There she is. I don't know why I'm so insistent. Oh, that's better. Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. I got a letter, but who knows where the letter is. I'll have to do the letters later. You can send me selfies and letters, which I'll forget to read and show, at michaelvsmith.com. You can like this page. You can subscribe to my channel. You can click the notification bell, and that'll tell you when we're going live, 8 p.m. Pacific time every night. And I think that's everything. I don't have my little cheat sheet list. That's everything.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I've noticed that you stopped flinching when you ring the bell.
I know, because I've remembered to move it away from my ear.
Yeah, I think you can see the progression from the first time where you're like, oh gosh, where it like frightened you. Any initial episodes, it's great. Watching you grow and flourish has just been a real, a real blessing. And what you're doing here to help people keep people connected during these strange days is really remarkable, and a real gift to our communities. So thank you so much for doing it.
It's the best. It really is the best system. I love doing it. It's really fun. It takes some time out of my day, but I get to talk to my friends. Once a day I get to talk to a friend I check in with. Mm-hmm. I really like how it builds community, and all kinds of people write me and send me notes and talk to me. And so it also brings people into my sequestered life. So I really don't feel like I don't miss people the way I thought I should be missing people, because I'm very social. And it's just a great gift for me that I get to also give to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And people's stories are fucking interesting, man. I have been loving hearing other people's stories.
Right. Right, right. That airplane story was terrifying and great.
I know. When I ran out of stories and I thought, okay, I need to just I tried really hard for a long time to figure out technology. And
Hmm.
I would try this thing and I tried this app and I tried all kinds of stuff and nothing worked. And I thought, I'm just gonna do it low rent. Fuck that. Do it really
Yeah.
the easiest way you can. Anyways, so when I finally figured it out, I went upstairs and said to my husband, okay, I figured it out. And I think this is what my show was designed to be. Like, I think my first month was me just practicing liking my face on camera and getting used to everything. But this is what
Right,
I really want the show to be because all the pressure's off. I don't have to perform, I just have to listen and,
right,
ask a couple questions so that I have a reason to be here.
right.
Anyways, I don't know why I told you all that. You sort of
I
pushed me.
appreciate it.
Okay, I love you, honey. Do you want to give a big kiss out to the audience? Mwah! Ethica, Doctor of the Golden Heart.
Aw, thank you, love.
Thanks for watching my show, everyone. Do you have
Stay
something else to
safe,
say?
everyone.
Stay
Be
safe.
well, be healthy.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Love you guys. Bye,
Love you.
everybody.
Bye.